Hello, this is David with Arctic Lab Services. I'd like to take you through a step-by-step process of replacing your analog sticks on your Xbox 360 controller. Now, how you know when your analog sticks are bad is you'll notice that there's a lot of play in it. And also, when you move, your character will move without you hitting the stick. Now, this has nothing to do with the gray plastic part you see here. It actually has to do with inside the controller. Alright, I'm going to get this thing taken apart and show you how it's done. Got the controller taken apart, and in order to get to the soldering points on the analog module, which is this right here, first you have to take off the trigger. In order to do that, you have to desolder these 3 points here. Now, I use soldering wick to extract the solder. If you don't make sure you get all the solder off, it can pull the copper traces off of the circuit board and basically make the left trigger completely useless. It won't work. It's fixable, but extremely difficult. Alright, so got that desoldered. It's held on by these little clips. One there. One there. It should just wiggle itself out. If you notice that it's sticking, don't force it. Heat it up a little bit more. Comes right out. All the traces are still there. Good to go. Okay. Part 1 done. All right, for the other part, we have 4, 10, 14 solder points around here holding the analog module on. Same as the trigger. You want to make sure that you get all of the solder off, or you'll mess up the traces. What I like to do is get my flush cutters, cuts it off flush with the circuit board, and cut off these tips. Now, the only reason why I'm doing this is because I'm not saving this module. Just be careful where you clip. You got other little circuit boards or other little resistors and stuff like that on here that you can easily mess up. Alright, now that I got all those clipped, I'm just going to take my soldering braid and clean up all this solder, and that module should pop right out. And all that solder off, and it should just pop right out, just like that. I got the new ones here. Just make sure that all these things are straight. Now don't force this in either, because if it catches the copper trace on the other side, it will break it off of the circuit board. Got to solder them back on. Got my solder here. Now I'm just gonna grab a Q-tip and get some of my rubbing alcohol and clean off all that flux. Good as new. Now with some of these modules, these tabs can be a little bit long. So what you do is you just get your cutters again, you go in and you just trim them up a little bit. You don't go all the way down to the circuit board. Just trim them up a little bit. If you don't, the housing for the trigger won't sit correctly, and it might get hung up. Still plenty of solder on there, still plenty of length. Just trimmed it up a little bit so this will fit back on there nice and snug. Alright, I'm going to get this cleaned up and show you soldering the trigger back on. Alright, got it all cleaned up. As you clean it, you also want to check to see you got all the soldering points nice and solid, and that you didn't accidentally solder one of the resistors to the soldering point, and make sure everything's separated and soldered the way it's supposed to be. Now to put the trigger back on, you line up that back hole and you feed those 3 posts through right there. Make sure you don't force it. Force it, you'll break those traces on the other side. There's a little guide post in there. Should go right in. Another little clip. Okay. That's in. Now we just gotta solder those 3 back on. Alright, there it is. We'll get it cleaned up and put it back together and see how it works. Alright, got it all back together. See, I got the new thumbsticks on there. Looking good. Nowhere near as much play. And it's looking good. She stops when you stop. Looking good. Alright, there you go. Thanks for watching.